These are the end times. There was no hope of survival. This is how you died. You know, I never expect death in a run. It just always comes. And it only ever takes one zombie not behaving like zombies normally do. And I'm sad to say that this is the end for Crazy Jack. But at least I can tell you a story while we reflect on the last run. And so, let me go ahead and tell you the story behind me in Project Zomboid. This last year, I had a goal when it came to gaming. To learn how to play survival games. To finally sit down and truly have a look at a genre as a whole that I was very honestly interested in. But after playing games like Rust, Conan Exiles, and The Forest, I was never really able to fully get into the genre. I enjoyed the exploration and gathering resources, but shunned a lot of the games mentioned in the actual survival portion. I would treat them like arcade games, where I tried to make minor goals. These goals could be something like making it from one area of the map to another, or killing a certain amount of enemies, to building a base and decorating it. But after that, what? I tried to progress, but oftentimes would get obsessive about the things that I could do at a competent level, mainly fighting and looking for loot. But after 10 to 20 hours of playing a game and feeling little to nothing as far as what I've accomplished, I would put the game down and just not return to it. Of course, multiplayer always extended that out, because I could play with more experienced people and focus all of my efforts on resource gathering. But I guess that might have been just an issue of not understanding the genre as a whole. While I cannot say much about the previously mentioned games because I haven't gone back to them, and hardly knew anything about them before, this last year has been very enlightening. But let's start at the beginning of this year in my mission to learn more about survival games. At the beginning of the year, a little bit of time after my birthday, I decided to learn how to play these types of games. I'm not a stranger to tough games, having played and beaten any Souls-likes that happened to catch my eye, but nothing could have prepared me for Project Zomboid, which one of my friends had gotten me as a late gift in January, and I was resolved. At the beginning, I knew nothing about the game, so I played the tutorial and hopped straight in, spawning in Moldraw because it was the first one highlighted. I figured it was just the default town. I holed up in my house for as long as humanly possible, just moving out to clear the neighborhood of zombies. But after multiple deaths to more than one or two, I decided to watch an introductory video. I was just not understanding how to achieve goals at a bare minimum. That introductory video was on how to kill 2 or more zombies at a time, and I decided to practice that, and just that, in hopes that I could make headway in getting what I needed to survive past the first rolling pin in a kitchen I could find. That introductory video suggested to not start on Apocalypse mode, instead the Survivor mode. I hadn't even realized that the modes are not in order from easiest to hardest. Of course, I hadn't even gotten to the harder modes of the game, but Apocalypse was hardly the best mode to play starting out. So I settled on Survivor mode and spawned into Rosewood, since the zombie population was lower there than in Moldraw. I had a fair time exploring the neighborhood, and was able to clear areas of zombies much more easily in this town. And that's where I would spend the first 20 hours, just poking around and learning where I could find particular things, mostly pertaining to weapons. And eventually I was able to survive up to the chopper event a bit more reliably. The chopper event was where I would hit another wall. It seemed to happen at random. I wasn't counting the days, I didn't notice a pattern at that point, and it would take 3 runs until I broke down and admittedly looked up another video. This is where I believe it kind of clicked for me. I needed to structure my runs. I had to be both reactive and have a plan in the game. At first my plans were simple. Fortify and barricade myself off while keeping open escape routes and backup bases in case the one I was in at the time became compromised. I had learned that you could hide from the chopper rather than scrambling to find a car to drive out of town when it came. Or alternatively, live out in a more rural environment where the zombies were sparse around the time the helicopter would come around. After a while I got the hang of it and could survive the chopper event reliably in a run. If I had to say the moment I felt confident in my abilities, it was when I could kill 5 or more zombies at a time. I pretty much just studied the pathing of the rotten jerks and would wind up smashing them all into one big pile of bodies. But that was with multi-hit on. Turning it off is where I was mostly put to the test. Multi-hit enabled me to not have to worry if 2 zombies were approaching at a time, because you're going to hit them and any other zombie that gets close enough to grab you in the front. Behind was a different story, and admittedly I had a lot of deaths to go through before I would eventually learn to check behind me rather than hard focusing on what was in front of my character. To explain further, in Project Zomboid you're only able to see what your character can see, and you can only hear what your character can hear. There is a limited range where you can see what your character is hearing behind them, but without the perk keen hearing, you've got to move fast when you see a zombie approaching behind you if you're fighting off 3 or 4 in the front. And oh yeah, I forgot about perks, didn't I? Well, kind of, but when I was at this stage of learning, I didn't know much about character creation. Obviously I knew about perks and disadvantages, but not very much about what was useful and what wasn't useful. But shortly, that would change when I turned off my safety net and stopped using multi-hit. But a quick note before we move on to that, the multi-hit discussion is something that is touchy at times for some people, and the last thing I want to do is ruin someone's good time if they should play with multi-hit. As long as you enjoy the game you are playing, that's what really matters, and I mean that. I just prefer to have multi-hit off. It's a preference of mine, and part of why I play difficult games. But I have no hate to those that use it. You do you. The character generation in Project Zomboid is complex, to say the least. Some traits are all around great to have in general, others have more situational uses. They are written a little unclear as to how they affect your character, with the exceptions of things that just flat give you skills. Some are self-explanatory, like Smoker, where you need to smoke cigarettes to stave off withdrawals. Others, like Wakeful, that state needs less sleep, are a lot more vague. I spent a while trying to find out what they did, spawning in with various traits in an attempt to figure out what did what. But that was until I found a handy little mod called More Descriptions for Traits by Champion X, which enabled me to actually build characters tailored to my playstyle and whatever kind of run I wanted to do. At this point of playing, I joined the Sweats and just saw how long I could survive in a single run. And this was the point where I would dive into the modding scene. By this time I had the game looped down. Find a place I could rest and recover, scavenge for supplies, fortify what I can, and prepare for the power shutting off by devouring every single perishable item I could find until the power grid failed in the game. I was actually surviving, longer and longer, learning from each run what I had to do in particular situations. How to get out of a bind should I find myself in a situation where I'll die in the game if I panic, and accepting when I had already dug myself into a hole that I couldn't survive. But more importantly, it opened me up to the use of mods in the game. Mods in Project Zomboid are very divisive, and some are really good, while others range from hilarious to broken. And I dove headfirst into mods. Want to flavor Project Zomboid to your favorite horror movie and see how you can do? You can do that. change the game from normal zombies to horrible abominations and added mechanics that mimic Silent Hill, you can do that too. You can find mods for different maps, weapons to try out. Heck, there's even a mod for a vehicle called the Zombie Harvester that lets you grind through hordes of the dubious things. You can do a lot of things with mods is what I'm saying. In fact, there's even a project to turn the game into an open world style RPG game rather than a survival game alone. Check out Mr. Atomic Duck for that one. I can't wait to play the mod pack. But yeah, some of the things people can do is wild when it comes to the modding community. And it is a huge community. After 500 hours learning the game to the point where I am now, I can say I'm competent at it. Taking on different scenarios and at least on average living out the first month. My record is 3, but I like more urban settings rather than living off of the land in Doe Valley. And my urban runs don't last nearly as long as the rural ones. But that was the beginning of my dash to learn survival games. Eventually I would learn more about Zomboid, and after more than 560 hours spent playing the game, I would find myself competent and even good enough to require additional challenges through the use of mods or, well, the challenges, many of which I still have not played. The sandbox proved to be my best friend in the end. I wouldn't say I fully mastered everything involving it, but I think I do a good job of surviving for a month, maybe 2 weeks, per run. Or theming my runs for shorter, more intense experiences. Maybe when the mood catches me to play it again, I'll record it and upload it to show you what I mean. But I'm pretty sure I have enough footage to fill in with B-roll of the videos I made just for my own personal records of things I'm pretty proud of. And if I did play a quick game at the time when I'll be posting this, I'll make sure that's what shows. But as always, thanks for watching. I did not expect to die. I'm going to be flat honest with you. But in the end, I think it'll work out because at least I was able to get this out. And I had actually been planning this since last year. And this just happened to be a great opportunity to tell you a little bit more about my history with the game. So, again, thanks for watching, and thanks for making it this far.